First, let me start to thank the EETT for this kind of invitation, especially to you, Leonidas, for inviting me to Athens the first time. It's the first time I've been at this event, and I have to say it's a fantastic location, high-profile group, and very, very exciting discussion so far, so congratulations. And I think as a little thank you for this warm welcome I had so far, I'd probably attempt to answer one question you posed before. And the question was, how does Europe catch up with the other regions with regards to NGA deployment? And the short answer is probably mobile broadband, but I'd like to go into a bit more detail here and try to attempt to answer two sub-questions. The first one is, what is the demand for NGA services, and specifically for NGA mobile broadband services? And the second one is there really an investment challenge, as we've heard this in the past panel? And I'd like to draw some comparisons between the two, because it was quite fascinating to hear what is going on in the fixed market. Let me start with, what's the demand side? Is there a demand problem? Well, there is no demand problem for mobile broadband. I mean, we've heard before from the CEO from EETT that there's a 30,000-fold increase in mobile data over the last years. We at Vodafone, we experienced mobile data growth rates of 30% every year in a already relatively fast-growing market. So we don't see a lack of demand for our services. I mean, there are a number of factors that play into this. The first one is that we have a very strong growth of devices, of smartphone devices. The smartphone penetration is around a third across Europe, across our customer base. And if you look at the preference that people have, that customers have, it is for mobile devices. The smartphone and tablet sales has overtaken the PC sales already 2 years ago. So there's a very clear trend towards mobile. Mobile also appears to become the technology choice for productivity and for lifestyle. And if I talk about productivity, I'm looking at all of you here who are just working on their BlackBerries and smartphones and looking at their tablets. This is something that you value, and we all value a lot. Productivity happens while you're very often away from the office. And from a lifestyle perspective, mobile social media is mainly consumed on mobile devices. And there's a very interesting piece of research I came across in preparation for this. Is the McKinsey has done a research with workers under 30 years old across the world, and that resulted in those people prioritizing the ability to use social media at work, to have flexibility with their devices, which they can use so that they can use their own devices as well, and that they have flexibility where they work. They prioritize that higher than a salary increase. Yeah? So this is, I thought, a very interesting development that we see nowadays. So, mobile devices change the lives and the behavior of people, and also the priorities of people. I said I'd like to contrast that a little bit to the debate we had previously, where we were talking about fixed and NGA and fiber networks. I don't think that I don't want to belittle that. I mean, this is an extremely important development, and there's a killer application for fixed services, that is high bandwidth applications, and the killer application is high definition video. And that's something that you can't always, in all circumstances, provide with a mobile technology. And Vodafone as a company is well known as a mobile company, but we're also very, very active in the fixed world, because we recognize this. We recognize this complementarity between mobile broadband services and fixed broadband services. And for some of you it might be a surprise, but we are a very active fixed operator. We're the largest alternative fixed operator in Europe. We are the 5th largest fixed operator altogether. And we're making enormous investments in this infrastructure. So we have just announced recently that we are deploying 6 million fiber lines in Spain. We have announced yesterday that we double our fiber footprint in Portugal to 1 million. We are making acquisitions in the fixed market. We acquired last year Cable and Wireless, the European Organization of Cable and Wireless, and some of you have approached me already today that we made an announcement today on a partnership together with Deutsche Telekom in Germany, where we help them to recuperate some of their NGA investment. So we have a number of initiatives where we try to combine the both worlds. But again, the dynamics are very different ones. And also to show what is the role of mobile broadband with regards to achieving the Digital Agenda 2020 targets. There's not much of a secret, and has been already addressed by the European Commission as well, that it will be mobile broadband which will contribute to the lion's share of the coverage obligations by 2020. It is a mobile broadband solution that will deliver that. So that's the reason why we have recognized this, our customers have recognized this, and also the policymakers have recognized the role that mobile broadband can play. Let me talk about investment. Is there investment problem in next generation access mobile broadband? Well, there's not. There's a lot of investment going without any strings attached, no preconditions on our investment made. Our target as Vodafone is to provide 4G LTE services everywhere there where we have currently voice services in Europe. So that is replicating our 2G and 3G footprint with 4G technology. So that is a very ambitious target. We currently have 7 LTE rollouts operation. We are also operational in the LTE market already, and I'll say a little bit about this later. And we have 4 LTE markets in preparation. So we are investing quite heavily. Just to give you a bit of an idea, and this is not just to give you Vodafone numbers, but to give you a comparison to the debate we had before and why it might sound a bit odd, what we've heard before. So we have invested in Europe across our footprint over the last years 4.4 billion euros in acquiring spectrum. So that's our entry ticket into fast mobile broadband. We are investing every year around 4 billion into network capex. So that's not all for LTE, but 65% of our network capex goes into extending our coverage and upgrading our network. So that would cover the LTE investment. So there are some significant investments that go into this market. But what I think you should be also keeping in mind is that just investing in infrastructure is not the only investment that has to be made. We also have to invest in customer retention and acquisition, which is around 4 million euros a year. We as Vodafone, we are the 8th largest retailer in the world through this activity. And I think lastly, it's not only the money you invest, it's also the propositions that you have. We talked about previously in the last panel about not being able to adapt to the new market requirements and the death of voice and have the industry player really recognize this quickly enough. You need commercial models and products that reflect the capabilities that your network have. And we have launched very recently the Red package, and even in Greece as well. So you've probably seen all the billboards and buses driving with the Red slogan, where we have a very data-centric proposition, which is charging data predominantly and various data bundles, but less so the voice or text element. So these are the investment aspects of mobile broadband. So not much prodding needed. We have the demand, and we have the strategic foresight to know that this is an investment worth making. Let me maybe say a bit about what have we learned on the way. So it wasn't all plain sailing so far, and specifically for markets which are just in the process of either starting to deploy LTE or have that still ahead of themselves. I think there were three big building blocks of obstacles that we've faced. So the first one had to do with spectrum and how spectrum is allocated. And I would say overall regulators have been very reasonable with spectrum allocation. But in a number of markets, there was this temptation to sacrifice the short-term gain of making a quick buck, I would say, or increasing the finances, the national finances, and trading it off against higher levels of investment, against faster rollout, wider rollout. And I hope we have some more opportunity to speak during the panel, and I want also time in considering the time where we are. But I think a very important element is how do you allocate spectrum to incentivize investment? The second one is an infrastructure issue, is what is the point in deploying fast mobile NGA access networks if you do not have the backhaul capacity? And the situation that we're in many European markets is that there is the passive infrastructure and also the active infrastructure to connect mobile base stations with fiber, which is extensively utilized by our fixed incumbent colleagues. But this infrastructure is not necessarily available to other operators who don't have the same ability to access that infrastructure. And on the other side, the alternative that operators that don't have the infrastructure, the fixed infrastructure have, is to connect the base station is by microwave links. And again, here we face very big obstacles in the major market, specifically in which we operate, which is the German market, and it's the market that I spent the last 2 years and investing a lot of sweat, blood, and tears with the LTE deployment in that market. And that was another issue is you need to get your administrative processes right in order to speed up the deployment of broadband. And very closely linked to that is a third element, which is the permission system generally. We have generally a long delay and a long duration for getting our new mobile sites approved by the authorities. And I'm not just talking about regulators here. It's a vast amount of authorities in each of our markets who have a say in the authorization of these sites, and that can take a long time. But that issue becomes even bigger when we talk about the deployments of small cell sites, of femto cells, of solutions which help us to have very individualistic propositions for our customer. So again, before you embark in deploying LTE, make absolutely sure that the main ingredients are in place and that your administrative systems are in place, because otherwise it's a long time before your customers see the benefits of LTE. And let me just close with an observation, and a comparison. And this comparison is going back to this discussion on, is there investment? Does it need incentivizing or not? And I want to compare the two markets, the mobile market and the fixed market. As you have seen, that the mobile market is characterized by vast amounts of investment, and it's vast amounts of private investment. And it's vast amounts of private investments, not just in the urban areas where we can cherry pick the most wealthy customers. It is very often in the digital divide areas where we invest. The second characteristic is that we have competition. We have sustainable competition in the mobile market. We have infrastructure competition. We have improved quality of services, and we have decreasing cost for our customers. And if I contrast it now to the fixed market, where we still have bottlenecks, we still have an access bottlenecks, where we have a regaining of retail market share by incumbent operators, where we don't see the same competitive dynamics that we have in the fixed market, and we don't have the investment. And it's a bit of a much used term, but the form of investment that we see is the FTTP investment, which is the fiber to the press release, which does not necessarily result in intangible access to customers. So we don't see the investment, and if we see the investment, it is that kind of cherry-picking investment that I mentioned before. So, you have very different market dynamics in both of these markets, and you would then assume that the regulatory response is accordingly, but it is